Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where beauty was power, eyeliner was armor, and flirty glances were literal weapons of seduction. Yep, we're talking about ancient eyeliner, Kohl, that seductive dark line rimming the eyes of gods, queens, and temple dancers alike. But don't worry, this isn't a fashion tutorial or a glam squad confessional. This is history, served up the only way it should be at bedtime, slowly, softly, and with just a pinch of cheeky irreverence. You're not sitting in a dusty lecture hall, you're gliding barefoot across sun-warmed stones, slipping between temple columns and marketplace stalls, where the air smells like myrrh, wet linen, and something faintly medicinal. You're in ancient Egypt. And oh honey, if you lived here, you'd better be wearing your eyeliner, or people might think you're sick, cursed, or worse, boring. You'd never survive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And leave a comment below. Where are you listening from, and what time is it where you are? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step carefully along the edge of the Nile, where the sand is soft and warm under your feet. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, but it's already tracing gold along the surface of the water. In front of you, women kneel at the riverbank, rinsing their faces with herbal water, holding little stone pots filled with fine black powder, Kohl. This isn't just for beauty. No, not even close. In their world, Kohl is both adornment and divine protection. They believe a rim of dark around the eyes wards off disease, curses, and bad dates, probably. Also, under Egypt's relentless sun, it cuts glare like a pair of Gucci sunglasses, only older and more mysterious. You crouch beside one of the women. Her name is Nefer, which rolls off the tongue like silk. She dips a thin bronze stick into the powder and leans in. The metal tip is cool against your eyelid. Soft. Precise. Then she smiles and whispers, "Now Horus won't forget you." You laugh. You have a feeling Horus won't be the only one. In the shaded fabric market of Memphis, a priest adjusts his robes and paints thick lines of Kohl around his eyes with the precision of a calligrapher. Nearby, you hear the hushed rhythm of preparation for a solar rite. One of the older priests glances at you and murmurs, "If your eyes are not properly lined, the gods won't hear you." You don't know whether to believe it. But something in the way his eyes gleam, line deep and fierce, makes you think, maybe the gods listen more to the bold. Historians still debate whether the ancient Egyptians truly believed makeup had spiritual force, or if it was mostly symbolic. But in this moment, amid incense smoke and the chime of tiny bronze bells, you feel the power in it. Even if it's just performance, it's a potent one. Back at Nefer's mud brick house that afternoon, you notice something intriguing. Everyone wears Kohl. Old, young, male, female, each with their own flair. Children wear just a faint line, as if marked to say, "I belong to the world now." Men go bold, with long wings stretching past the temples, half intimidation, half peacock. But the women? The women are poets. Some paint fierce cat eyes that could slice through armor. Others line just the inner corners, crafting a gaze that seems to smile even when their lips don't. You begin to understand, this isn't makeup. It's a language. A glance says more than a poem. A side eye becomes a love letter. Nefer tells you about the time she, accidentally, looked too long at a potter while choosing a basket. "Just once," she giggles, "and 3 days later, his mother came knocking." She shrugs. "I said no." His eyebrows weren't even. You laugh. Hard. But honestly, she's not wrong. In some towns, a woman circling a man's house 3 times in one day, with eyes lined thick as temple walls, was considered a silent proposal. Eye contact? More like eye contract. On her simple vanity, just a carved stone shelf, Nefer keeps a whole arsenal, a bronze applicator stick, a carved bone spoon, tiny lidded pots of crushed galena, sometimes mixed with animal fat or tree resin. No waterproof mascara, no felt-tip liner pens. But oh, these eyes could sink kingdoms. And it wasn't just for women. Pharaohs wore it in battle. Warriors, scribes, even tax collectors. You imagine a soldier adjusting his eyeliner before heading into war, not for vanity, but for luck. For fearlessness. For godly swagger. At night you lie on Nephis' rooftop under a sky dusted with stars. The breeze lifts your hair. She turns to you and asks, "Where you come from, do people speak love with their eyes?" You pause. In your world, you've got emojis, dating apps, texts with enough typos to ruin the mood. But this is different. This is ancient flirtation, unspoken and deadly accurate. The kind of look that says, "I see you. I dare you." Your eyelids grow heavy. You still feel the cooling trace of Kohl around your eyes, like a quiet ring of ink binding you to something sacred. Or maybe just something smoldering. It's not just pigment. It's armor. It's a whisper. A slow, elegant secret drawn right onto your skin. And as sleep wraps around you, you remember, the first thing we give each other is a glance. And often, it's the last thing we carry. You wake before dawn, curled on the cool clay rooftop, a linen sheet tucked beneath your chin. For a moment you forget where, or when, you are. But then you hear the low moan of a conch shell being blown from a temple tower, and a flock of ibis swoops low across the Nile, wings flashing like white fans. The city of Thebes stirs to light beneath you. And oh, Thebes! It's not the sleepy kind of city that stretches and yawns. No, Thebes wakes up with eyeliner already on and a scandal brewing. As you make your way down narrow alleys between buildings the color of sand, you notice it again. That same quiet choreography as yesterday, fingers dipping into pots of coal, eyes gazing into bits of polished bronze, soft laughter between stalls. But here in Thebes, the eyeliner game feels different. Bolder. Almost theatrical. This isn't just about the gods anymore. It's about each other. You pass a young merchant girl arranging lotus buds on a low cart. Her eyes are rimmed thick, the corners swept upward in an elegant flick that makes her look amused even when she isn't smiling. She glances up, catches your eye, and holds it for just a breath too long. You suddenly remember you haven't touched your face since waking up. You're bare-eyed in a city of eye sorcerers. She smirks, tosses her braid over her shoulder, and returns to her flowers. Welcome to Thebes, where flirting isn't done with words, it's etched into your lash line. Across the square, 2 men argue over the price of honeyed figs, but their eyes keep darting toward a dancer stretching beneath a pergola. She's applying fresh coal in a tiny copper mirror, using short, practiced strokes. One eye done. Then the other. Her movements are smooth, hypnotic. One of the fig vendors forgets his haggling mid-sentence. You don't blame him. When she stands, her eyes seem to float on her face, impossibly large and expressive, saying, "Yes, I noticed you. And also, you are extremely replaceable." It's a whole novella in a glance. Historians still debate whether Theban society had formal codes for eye makeup, like eyeliner thickness indicating class, or wing-length signaling availability. The written records are vague, and makeup rarely survives the ages. But many believe that in this period, flirtation became more codified. Less divine, more designed. In other words, the winged was no longer just a prayer, it was a pickup line. And sometimes, a warning. You duck into a shaded cafe, really just a roof of reeds with pillows beneath it, and find Nefer waiting with a clay cup of something bitter and earthy. She's been watching the market square, eyes narrowed in quiet assessment. See that? She says, nodding toward a young man walking by. His kohl is smudged into soft shadows beneath his lashes. That's morning liner. His sister died last week. But he's already adding shimmer again. Someone's ready to move on. You sip the tea and wince. What about her? You whisper, pointing to a noblewoman gliding by with crisp, straight lines that extend far past her temples, clean as an architect's sketch. Nefer chuckles. That's don't touch me eyeliner. You're not sure if she's joking. Later you stroll past a perfume shop, where one of the apprentices, barely more than a boy, catches your eye. He's wearing a soft line of kohl, with a flick at the edge subtle and shy. He pretends to ignore you, but when you glance back, there it is. A second look. A deliberate one. Nefer snorts. He's practicing. Probably read about it on a tomb wall, and wants to see if it works. You ask, does it? Oh, absolutely, she says, already moving on. But only if you hold the gaze for the third heartbeat. That's the secret. You try to count your own heartbeats but lose track when he smiles. What's fascinating is how universal this ritual has become. From the bread seller to the palace scribe, everyone in Thebes seems to carry a pot of kohl somewhere, tucked in a sash, hanging from a neck pouch, hidden in a sleeve. You watch one older woman, clearly a grandmother, pull out a small vial while her grandchild dozes on her lap. She dabs just a little beneath each eye, almost out of habit. It's not about seduction for her anymore. It's about dignity. Composure. A daily ritual as familiar as tying her sandals. By midday, the air is hot and heavy, and the shade retreats behind closed shutters. You take shelter in a bathhouse, where the steam smells of cedar and crushed rose petals. A noblewoman lounges nearby, her face painted white with powdered chalk, lips stained red with carmine. But her eyes, those are where the magic still lives. Her kohl is layered in waves. Thick at the base, thinner at the outer corners, rising like wings. You overhear her murmuring to her attendant, "Make it wider today. I want to seem distant." You realize it. In Thebes, eyeliner doesn't just express beauty or emotion. It constructs identity. Want to look flirtatious? Soften the lower line. Defiant? Extend the wings outward. Tender? Smudge it gently with your finger. And if you want to look like you've just banished your last lover with a smile and a handwritten curse, try the double flick. Even children, playing with dolls carved from scraps of linen and wax, imitate the motions. You watch a little girl draw black around a doll's eyes with a burnt stick and declare, "She's ready to meet the prince now." The doll, of course, says nothing, but her eyes do seem more confident. That evening, as the sun folds itself into the west and paints the city in gold and blood orange, you find yourself in a small rooftop gathering. There's music, a lute strumming somewhere, a hand drum tapping a lazy rhythm, and there's wine. Always wine. Nefer leans in and says, "I heard about a priest who fell in love with a woman he saw only once. Said her eyes were like midnight lakes. What happened?" He took a vow of silence, she says, sipping casually. He never spoke to her. Just dreamed about her. Kohl. You blink. That's kind of sad. It is, she agrees, but also kind of perfect. And that's how Thebes works. No declarations. No grand gestures. Just glances, and flicks, and shadows drawn by hand in the quiet hours of dawn. You curl into your blankets, belly warm from wine, eyes still lined from the morning's touch-up. You think about that boy from the perfume shop. You wonder what he'll line his eyes with tomorrow. And just before sleep finds you, you whisper, only to yourself. 3 heartbeats. By now, the desert wind feels familiar, brushing against your cheeks like the hem of a linen robe. You've crossed the threshold, not just into another time, but into a different kind of social language. And as you descend from the sandstone rooftops of Thebes and step into the dust-swirled courtyards of daily life, something clicks. You're not just observing anymore. You're watching through lined eyes. You're part of the silent conversation. And nowhere is that conversation louder, more daring, than in the back streets of Thebes during festival season. Because, oh yes, today is festival day. And in a city where eyeliner already speaks volumes, festival eyeliner basically screams. You follow the music. It starts as a low thrum, drums and pipes echoing down alleyways, but quickly becomes a full-body vibration. Women in dyed linen and jingling anklets twirl through clouds of perfumed incense. Men in sashes edged with gold dust toss handfuls of dried flower petals into the air. The whole street smells like cardamom and anticipation. Everyone is beautiful. But not in that effortless, rolled-out-of-bed way. No, this is engineered beauty. Weaponized beauty. Kohl-layered, pigment-dusted, strategic beauty. Eyes everywhere. Watching. Signaling. Daring. You duck into a courtyard where girls are gathered around a mirror, a polished sheet of bronze mounted on the wall. One of them leans in close, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth, trying to get the flick just right. Another girl adjusts her friend's line, narrowing the shape with her thumb. Longer, she murmurs. So he knows you're serious. A third snorts. Too long, and it says you're desperate. There's laughter, but also intense concentration. This is high-stakes flirtation. These aren't random lines. They're coded messages. You realize, standing in the midst of it all, that eyeliner in Thebes is the original swipe right. A few blocks away, boys are doing the same thing, though with significantly more swagger. One of them is applying his liner using a shard of obsidian like a compact mirror, pausing every few strokes to raise an eyebrow at his reflection. You ask him, "What does that shape mean?" He answers without turning, "That I'm dangerous but sensitive." You don't even know his name, and yet, okay, it's working a little. Historians still debate whether ancient Egyptians believed Kohl had flirtatious subtexts at all. The written records are scarce, too busy chronicling wars and gods and livestock inventories. But the surviving artwork? It practically flirts with you from the walls. Statues with narrowed eyes. Murals with bold black outlines sweeping dramatically back. Little bronze pots of coal buried in tombs, as if you might need a quick touch-up in the afterlife before running into your ex. No one says it outright. But the message is there. Later that afternoon, you pass by a group of older women seated in the shade, stringing beads and talking about the festival. Their eyes are lined too, though with a practiced softness that doesn't reach so far past the temples anymore. One of them looks you over. "Your eyes," she says. "Too gentle. They say you'll wait forever. You need a little more threat. Another nods. Add a second flick. Just a hint of cruelty. You stammer. Cruelty? They all laugh, and one of them pats your hand. Just a pinch. Enough to remind them you can leave. You don't know if you're flattered or terrified, but either way, you borrow a mirror and start blending. You've heard rumors by now. Festival night is when the most outrageous eyeliner appears. Some go full black mask, eyes darkened from lid to brow. Others add colored powders, copper, malachite, crushed lapis, sparkling under torchlight like the stars themselves. And when the sun dips below the dunes, the city transforms. You walk through Thebes under a canopy of lanterns, firelight dancing across stone walls. Musicians play reed flutes while dancers move like ink poured into silk. Everywhere you look, Kohl, Kohl, Kohl. And each pair of eyes tells a story. There's a woman whose liner sweeps out so far it touches her temples. She's telling someone, I've already chosen. Come find me. There's a man with a tear-shaped dot under each eye. He's in mourning, or maybe pretending to be. There's even a child with stars painted around his eyes, squealing with laughter and dragging a kite on a string. You settle beside a torchlit fountain where couples are gathering, eyes darting and shifting like fish in water. A girl sits alone on the fountain's edge, her eyes lined sharp as obsidian. She looks bored. Dangerous. A little amused. You sit beside her, saying nothing. She glances at you once, just long enough for you to feel it. Then looks away. 3 heartbeats. Then 2 more. She says, Your wings are uneven. You want to tell her they were fine before you got nervous. But instead you just nod and say, Yours are terrifying. She smiles, just barely. This, it turns out, is flirting in Thebes. There are no pick-up lines. No corny jokes. Just eyes like poetry, punctuation drawn in pigment. And the festival? It's not just a party. It's a dialogue. No, more than that, a debate. A duel. Each glance exchanged beneath the lanterns is like a verse. Some of them rhyme. Some of them clash. But all of them are meaningful. You close your eyes later that night under a canopy of woven reeds, your cheeks sticky with wine and your head heavy with music. The flicks at the corners of your eyes are smudged now, worn soft by laughter and torch smoke and the accidental rub of your fingertips. But even blurred, they say something. They say you danced. They say you looked. They say you spoke without words. And maybe, just maybe, someone saw you and answered back. Morning finds you on the move again. The air shifts, the Nile fades behind you. The sun rises over a different kind of land now, drier, sterner, framed by ziggurats instead of pyramids. You're no longer in Egypt. You're in the mighty land of Assyria. Here, the stone lions have wings, the kings have beards as complex as tax codes, and the makeup? Oh, sweetheart, makeup here comes with power, protocol, and just the slightest risk of execution. You step into the grand city of Nineveh, where the markets buzz beneath towering walls and everyone seems just a little more formal. In Egypt, eyeliner was for the gods and your crush. But here? Lipstick is war paint. You arrive in time for morning court. No, not like traffic court. The real kind, columns, incense, jewel-studded thrones. And sweeping across the polished tiles comes an Assyrian noblewoman whose entrance could kill small birds on impact. Her lips are crimson. Not a soft red, not a flirty pink. We're talking fire engine of the ancient world red. It's not paint. It's crushed iron oxide and cinnabar, mixed with animal fat and beeswax. Possibly poisonous. Almost definitely bad for you. But does that stop her? You already know the answer. In Assyria, lips meant business. Bright red signaled status. A woman with access to rare minerals and the nerve to put them on her mouth. That was someone you didn't trifle with. You sit beside an older scribe who watches the court procession with mild disinterest. She's married to the king's cousin, he murmurs. That red means off limits. You raise an eyebrow. Isn't that counterintuitive? He shrugs. That's the point. The more dangerous, the more beautiful. Like lions. Or honey with scorpions. You're not sure what kind of dating apps they had in Assyria, but it's clear, if you wore lipstick, you were either fabulously powerful, or professionally terrifying. Or both. Historians still debate whether red lips in ancient Mesopotamia were a symbol of fertility, status, or seduction. There are carvings of high-ranking women with painted mouths. There are even tablets detailing recipes for lip stains, including instructions to crush insects, burn clay, and store in copper pots. What's less clear is why it mattered so much. Some believe it was about control. If you could make your mouth look like blood, but remain calm, poised, untouchable, that was its own kind of power. Others think it was simply fashion. But honestly? You've seen how people look at a bold lip. You know better. Later, in the market, you pass a cosmetics stall. There's no mirror, only a bowl of still water. But the young woman running the stall smears a stripe of clay red across your lower lip, then fans it dry with a palm leaf. Now you look dangerous, she says. You smile, and the color cracks. Dangerous, maybe, but not waterproof. You wander deeper into the city and find yourself in the perfume quarter, where makeup becomes ritual. You watch a bride being prepared for her wedding. Hair coiled high, cheeks dabbed with rosewater and powdered resin, lips stained a dark garnet. She can't speak until the ink dries. The attendant whispers. You glance around. Ink? They nod. A mixture of dye and pledge. Symbolic silence. Apparently, red lips aren't just a flirtation, they're a contract. But it's not all power plays and palaces. That evening, you sit at a tavern near the riverbank, where laughter drifts with the scent of roasted barley and cumin. A group of young men, apprentices maybe, are trying on lip pigments from a traveling merchant. They take turns smearing color onto each other, giggling and rating each shade. That one's too royal. This one makes you look like a fish. That one is dangerous. It's silly and intimate and very human. Because even in the land of laws and lions, vanity still makes room for play. One boy catches your gaze. His lips are stained a deep rust, his smile crooked. Do you think it suits me? He asks. You want to say, it's not the pigment that matters, it's how you wear it. But instead you nod. You look like you could ruin someone's life. He beams. Perfect. You return to your lodging that night, the red still clinging faintly to your mouth. It tastes like ash and something metallic. It smells faintly of resin and ritual. And somehow, that makes it feel real. In Assyria, lipstick wasn't cute. It was command. A painted mouth could silence a room. Could stop a proposal mid-sentence. Could get you noticed, or get you into trouble. But oh, the things it could promise. You lie back on your woven mat, staring at the ceiling painted with constellations and royal seals. Your lips still warm, you think of that noblewoman from court, how she didn't smile, didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her lips spoke. And tonight yours do too. Without words. Without whisper. Just color. And consequence. The wind changes again, warmer now, with a sweetness on the air, dates, incense, and something faintly floral. You cross through sandstone gates and into the city of Babylon, and oh, it feels like walking straight into a dream painted with lapis and firelight. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the brick streets, but Babylon is just getting started. This city doesn't truly wake until twilight. Because here, beauty glows under oil lamps. And flirtation? It's a kind of theater. You arrive in time for the night market, where lanterns float on strings like captive stars, and the air hums with voices, music, and the rustle of silk sleeves. The people here don't just walk. They glide. They shimmer. And every single face looks powdered, somehow glowing and ghostly at once. You reach up to your own cheeks and realize, you're the only one here not dusted in white. Oh. Powder, in Babylon, isn't just fashion, it's strategy. You watch a woman at a mirror stall brushing her face with a tiny fan of woven palm, dipping it into a shallow bowl of crushed limestone and lead. The powder clings to her skin like moonlight, softening every edge, blurring time itself. Next to her, a man carefully applies a trace of ochre to his cheeks and dabs the same powder along his nose. His friend leans in, squinting critically. "Too matte," he says. "You'll look dead in firelight." He's not wrong. The Babylonian flirtation formula is all about contrast, glow and shadow, warmth and chill. Powder isn't meant to erase, it's meant to reveal. Historians still debate whether Babylonian face powder was used primarily for aesthetic, ceremonial, or even medicinal reasons. Lead-based formulas were toxic, of course, but that didn't stop people from slathering it on. The paler your skin, the wealthier you appeared, able to avoid the sun, the fieldwork, and the hassle of melanin altogether. But there was something else going on here. In Babylon, night was performance. And powder was stage lighting. A woman at a perfume stall waves you over. She smells like myrrh and mystery. She takes one look at your face and clicks her tongue disapprovingly. "Desert dull," she says, handing you a brush. "Too warm. You'll disappear in lamplight." She dusts your cheeks with crushed pearl mixed into ground chalk. The texture is strange, like soft sand on damp skin, but when you glimpse yourself in the mirror, you see the difference. You don't look like you. You look cinematic. Later, as you drift through the crowd, you pass a group of musicians playing soft rhythms on lyres and flutes. A couple sits nearby, whispering. The woman's skin is pale, powdered to near translucence, but her lips are stained plum, and her kohl is smoked nearly to her temples. Her partner listens, nodding, eyes fixed only on her. And somehow, in the middle of this noisy, glittering night, they look like the only two people alive. That's the Babylonian trick. Powder as spotlight, shadow as curtain. You catch your own reflection again, soft, strange, new. Nearby, a fortune teller leans over a table covered in woven talismans and dried date seeds. Her face is an artwork in itself, chalk white, with tiny blue dots painted at each temple, and lips left bare. You sit. She doesn't speak. She just studies your face, fingers tapping gently against your cheekbones. Then she murmurs, "You wear the powder like someone with nothing to hide." You're not sure if that's a compliment. She hands you a little bag of crushed talc and a brush made of woven horsehair. "No one here is honest," she says. "But we all perform beautifully." Then she disappears into the crowd. You wander past a theater platform where actors in painted masks reenact myths of Ishtar and Dumuzi. But beneath the masks, you notice, it's not just costume. Their real faces are powdered too. Beneath every veil, every mask, is another layer of art. A young man in the audience leans toward a girl beside him. He doesn't speak. He just runs a finger gently down her powdered cheek, leaving a trail of pink beneath the white. She gasps. And then she smiles. You realize, in Babylon, to smudge someone's powder is practically a love letter. By midnight the crowd thickens. You find yourself seated on a woven mat beneath a tree lit by glass lanterns. Strangers pass small cups of rosewater wine. A girl with cheeks so pale they glow like bone leans toward you and whispers, "What does your powder say?" You blink. SPF 15? She laughs, and the sound is low, dark, lovely. No. Your mood, she says. Your color. Your texture. Your mystery. You glance at the mirror again. The powder is fading now, revealing the flush beneath it. Honest skin under artifice. Maybe that's the real beauty of it. Historians still argue whether these rituals, this dedication to face powder, were purely visual, or whether they carried religious undertones. Babylon was, after all, a city of gods and mirrors, temples and masks. Was beauty sacred? Was concealment divine? Some say yes. Others say, it was just hot, dusty, and vanity wins every time. You suspect, both can be true. That night you return to your chamber above the lantern-lit market. You remove the powder from your cheeks and see the outline of where it once was, like a ghost of who you performed as tonight. The pillow is cool. The windows are open. Somewhere below, someone laughs. You smile into the dark. Here you learn to glow. Not to be seen, but to be noticed. To shimmer under firelight. To catch a glance, just long enough. To leave a trace of yourself, even after the powder's gone. The air grows heavier, the colors bolder. You step out of Babylon's perfume-laced twilight and into something sharper. Copper roofs gleaming, stone streets sizzling, and a kind of confidence that walks ahead of itself. You're in Rome now. And Rome doesn't flirt. Rome performs. This is a city where togas are draped like armor, conversation is a duel, and makeup, especially rouge, isn't soft or subtle. It's strategy. It's spectacle. And in some cases, it's downright warfare. You step into the forum as the morning heat curls off the marble. Senate scribes hurry past with wax tablets underarm. Gladiators swagger through side streets, trailing the scent of oil and ambition. And woven among them, like living mosaics, are women whose cheeks blaze with intentional, practiced red. Rouge in Rome doesn't blush. It declares. You duck into the shade of a colonnade, watching a woman walk by in a dress dyed deep saffron, sandals clicking like punctuation. Her cheeks are flushed, perfectly balanced, high, sharp, dramatic. The red is matte, bold, and unmistakable. Love? You ask no one in particular. A voice behind you answers. Power. You turn. An older woman sits there, fanning herself with a palm leaf. Her own cheeks are softly tinted, less vivid, but deliberate. She nods toward the younger woman. That shade? That's not for husband hunting. That's for reminding people she doesn't need one. You grin? Rome's beauty standards aren't about coyness. They're about control. Historians still debate whether Roman women wore rouge to emulate Greek ideals of youth and health, or if they simply enjoyed the drama of it. Recipes varied, but the most popular rouge used in high society came from cinnabar, a mercury-based mineral that shimmered beautifully and slowly poisoned you. Which feels, honestly, on brand for Rome. One poet even warned that some cosmetics could burn the flesh like flame and hollow the cheeks like famine. But did that stop anyone? Not a chance. You find a stall in the Subura district, Rome's bustling, chaotic heart, where cosmetics are sold between pots of honey and ceramic amulets. A vendor hands you a small tin of rouge the color of fresh blood and offers no warning whatsoever. You hesitate. What does this one say? She winks. That you're not afraid of being looked at. You dab some on, blending it across your cheeks with a bit of olive oil. Instant heat. Instant boldness. And when you catch your reflection in a polished bronze plate, you see it. You look like someone with plans. At midday, you wander through a wealthy villa on the Palatine Hill, where noblewomen gather in shaded courtyards, drinking chilled wine and discussing politics with more venom than any senator. Their faces are stunning, powdered pale, lips stained, cheeks intense. One woman leans over and whispers behind her fan. If her rouge gets any brighter, the sun will feel insecure. But it's not gossip. It's tactics. These women aren't trying to disappear. They're asserting space. One sharp cheekbone at a time. You sit beside a young bride-to-be getting painted for her engagement dinner. Her attendant dusts her cheeks with rose madder mixed with crushed poppies. A light shimmer follows, mica, maybe, or fish scales ground into powder. She looks nervous. You whisper. The attendant smirks. Good. A little fear makes the color sit better. You're not sure if that's science or superstition, but when the bride catches her own reflection and gasps, you understand. Her blush isn't soft. It's stunning. Stark. It makes her eyes look wider. Her mouth more decisive. She looks like someone who knows how to start a fire and how to walk away from it. Even men, you learn, aren't above a bit of rouge. In certain circles, actors, poets, patricians in the mood for flair, a subtle stain on the cheek signals wealth, youth, and the freedom to care how you look. In Rome, vanity isn't weakness. It's a birthright. And blush? That's not decoration. It's declaration. Later, you pass a statue of Venus in the Temple of Love, and notice the marble cheeks painted faintly pink, renewed regularly with ochre. It's strange, beautiful, almost eerie. A goddess who doesn't blush naturally? They give her one. Even deities aren't exempt from Roman expectations. Night comes with wine and noise. You sit on a villa's upper balcony, overlooking torchlit gardens. People below dance in slow circles, cheeks glowing under the flames flicker. Some women reapply their rouge between songs, adjusting not for fading, but for effect. You change the shade depending on what you want. One tells you, dabbing on a redder pigment. This one says, stay close. She leans in. The next one will say, don't follow me. Historians still argue whether Roman beauty routines were ritualistic or theatrical. There are entire scrolls dedicated to rouge, its sources, its dangers, its scandalous overuse. One philosopher even called it a lie written on the face. But even he probably knew, lies can be lovely. And sometimes, necessary. You settle into your cushion that night, your own cheeks still carrying the faint warmth of borrowed pigment. You don't feel like someone hiding anything. You feel like someone deliberate. Someone who doesn't blush by accident. And as sleep finds you, warm and slightly flushed, you wonder, what color would you choose? And what would it say? The streets narrow. You've left behind Rome's theatrical grandeur, its marble staircases and red-stained cheekbones, and entered something quieter, softer, and somehow more dangerous. Athens. The stones here are older, worn smooth. The sunlight is gentler, but the conversation sharper. This is the city of philosophers and poets, of democracy and debate. And yet, even here, in the land of reason and rhetoric, it's not words that speak first. It's eyes. And what lines them? You're walking through the agora just after sunrise, when the stalls are being set up and the scent of honeyed bread competes with the sharp tang of olives. The city is waking with a kind of controlled rhythm. Calculated. Almost shy. And then you see her. She stands behind a stall selling dyed wool, arranging her wares with the kind of grace that doesn't ask for attention, it just expects it. Her eyes are lined with kohl, not bold or sweeping like in Egypt, but tight, close to the lashes, drawing you in rather than pushing you back. A secret told without moving her lips. You've seen Kohl before. But in Athens it has changed. Here, it's not divine protection or royal declaration. It's suggestion. Subtext. And you realize that in this city of logic and debate, the eyes have simply learned to whisper instead of shout. You sit in a shaded garden with a small gathering of women. They speak softly, with fans in hand and shoulders turned just enough to suggest intimacy without invitation. One of them, Lisa, has a tiny coal pot balanced on her knee and a twig sharpened at one end. She applies her liner carefully, deliberately, while recounting a story of turning down a marriage proposal by blinking too slowly. You ask, "Just blinking?" She smiles. "If you do it right, you don't need to say anything at all." Another woman, slightly older, nods. "A proper glance in Athens is like a philosophical argument. Structured. Elegant. Devastating." You sit back and let the statement linger. Historians still debate how heavily Athenian women used cosmetics. Writings of the time often condemned vanity, especially in women. But archaeological evidence, fragments of coal pots, polished mirrors, and fine applicators, suggests something else. Something quieter. More private. More subversive. In public, Athenian women were expected to be modest, subdued. But the private spaces, gardens, bedrooms, bathhouses, told a different story. There, beauty was practiced like poetry. Not showy. Not loud. But precise. And Kohl was the sonnet you wrote on your face. You wander through a small cosmetics shop run by a widow named Thalia. Her fingers are stained with pigment, and her voice is like wind on water, soft but steady. She shows you her best-selling kohl, finely ground antimony, stored in tiny ceramic jars painted with fig leaves. "This one," she whispers, "makes the eyes look mournful." You raise an eyebrow. "Mournful?" you ask. She shrugs. "Some men like to think they've rescued you. Even if it's not true." You leave with a small jar tucked into your belt and a question in your heart. What would it mean to let someone see sadness you don't feel? Later you find yourself at a small symposium, not the kind with togas and wine-soaked debates, but a gentler affair. Poetry is being read aloud. A young woman in a soft blue himation recites a verse about longing and doorways. You barely catch the words. Her eyes hold you still. They're lined with kohl that's been smudged slightly at the outer corners, as if she's been crying, or about to. You can't tell which. That's the trick, you realize. Athens doesn't use makeup to display emotion. It uses it to create ambiguity. You sit by a fountain with a student of rhetoric. He claims to be above cosmetics. Artifice is a kind of dishonesty, he insists, though he's definitely combed his curls twice and adjusted his belt 5 times. You ask, but isn't rhetoric also artifice? He frowns. You continue, I mean, if you dress your words to be more persuasive, isn't that the same? He opens his mouth, then closes it. You watch his eyes flicker toward yours. They're not lined, but yours are. And you know exactly what your eyes are saying. Night falls, and the city sighs. The wine flows. The debates fade into soft murmurs and scattered laughter. You lie on a low couch beneath trailing vines, head resting against a cushion. A hand mirror lies beside you, forgotten. Or maybe not. Your Kohl is still intact, but smudged now, slightly softened by the day's heat and thought. You look at yourself. Not to fix anything. Just to observe. You realize that tonight, your eyes don't declare anything. They suggest. They invite questions. Offer no answers. They hold space. And in a city that worships clarity, that might be the most powerful form of flirtation of all. The curtains part. And just like that, you're no longer in open air. The world grows dim, golden, quiet. Light comes from oil lamps and pierced metal screens. Everything smells like beeswax, roses, and the faint sharpness of cloves. You've entered the Byzantine court. Here, flirtation is not public. It's not performed on street corners or debated in agoras. It's layered, like paint on a fresco, like silks on a courtesan's arm, like secrets. If you thought Rome was theatrical and Athens poetic, welcome to Constantinople, where beauty is strategy, and seduction is a chessboard. You walk through shadowed halls of polished marble, where walls whisper and footsteps never echo quite right. Behind every tapestry, every column, someone is watching. And they all smell incredible. You're brought to the women's quarters, not a prison, as outsiders often imagined, but a sanctuary. A stage. A laboratory of power, where appearance is both armor and invitation. The first thing you notice isn't the clothes or the jewels. It's the scent. Everything is fragrant. Hair, skin, robes, even the ink on their scrolls. You sit beside a basin of steaming water infused with orange blossom and watch a woman apply perfume not just behind her ears, but along her collarbone, between her toes, and in the folds of her elbow. You lean in. She glances at you and says, without smiling, "Scent lingers longer than memory." You believe her. In the corner, 2 girls grind resins and flowers into paste, adding crushed charcoal to one bowl, powdered saffron to another. They're making more than just makeup, they're making messages. Kohl for the eyes, yes, but also for the lashes. A lip tint made from mulberries, dabbed with a gold-tipped stylus. Cheek color from boiled roses and wine lees. And perfumes, endless perfumes, attar of rose, distilled jasmine, frankincense steeped in almond oil. You ask one girl what her perfume says. She doesn't answer. She just walks past you slowly, and leaves a trail you won't forget for hours. Historians still debate just how elaborate Byzantine cosmetics really were. The empire was famously devout, officially modest, and yet the records overflow with recipe books, beauty guides, even imperial laws regulating cosmetic imports. Some claim women were discouraged from painting their faces. Others insist it was simply done in private. You're starting to see, in Byzantium, flirtation had no place on balconies. It lived in doorways. In the space between sentences. In the echo of a scent. You meet an older attendant named Sidera. Her name means star, and her eyes have the calm weight of someone who's watched emperors rise and fall. She helps you sit before a polished copper mirror and begins to prepare your face. No questions, no permission, just gentle hands and careful grace. Don't smile, she says softly. Not yet. She dabs rose oil across your cheeks, then dusts over it with a crushed pearl powder that catches the light like dew. She dips a stick into thick black kohl and begins to line your eyes, but only the upper lids, soft, rising just slightly at the corners. You look like someone who knows, she says. You whisper. Knows what? She smiles faintly. Exactly. Later, you sit by a lattice window with a young noblewoman named Alexia. She teaches you the court's language of perfume. You wear citrus when you want to be seen, she says. Jasmine for longing. Myrrh when you miss someone, but want them to feel it. She uncaps a small bottle of musk and dabs it at the base of your throat. This one is dangerous, she whispers. It says you dream about them. You inhale. It's rich, warm, and slightly wild. You suddenly feel like a creature, not a guest. The Byzantine court doesn't date, not in the way you're used to. It conspires. Flirtation here is veiled by silk, by incense, by centuries of etiquette. But it's no less intense. One glance in a corridor can unravel weeks of silence. A gift of lavender tucked into a sleeve can undo an entire engagement. A shared scent, left on a cushion, a scarf, a letter, can become legend. That evening, the women gather in a candlelit chamber. Music plays soft and distant. They take turns applying lip tint and dabbing kohl while exchanging riddles and poetry. It feels less like a salon and more like a spell circle. One woman recites a verse. He did not hear my voice, but he breathed in my name. They all nod, as if this is an obvious kind of love. You find yourself leaning forward, eager to learn more. You feel disguised but truer, dressed but exposed. It's the perfume, or the light, or maybe just Byzantium. As you lie back on the embroidered cushions that night, skin still warm from the oils, lips faintly stained, eyes softly shadowed, you realize something. This wasn't a makeover. It was an initiation. Into a language where no one says what they mean, and yet everyone understands. Where scent is a memory, and eyeliner is a boundary, and flirtation isn't an act, it's a ritual. The air turns cold. Gone are the oils and incense, the warm marble, the soft glow of Byzantium's lamplit chambers. In its place, gray skies, rough wool cloaks, and a chill that creeps into your bones like a whispered warning. You've crossed into medieval Europe. And here, beauty does not sing. It haunts. You walk through a narrow village lane, the ground slick with mud, and smoke curling from low stone chimneys. Everything smells of peat and boiled turnips. The sky is low and reluctant to brighten. And yet, beneath the weight of war, plague, and prayer, you begin to notice something strange. Women are still painting their faces. Not boldly. Not openly. But carefully. Almost secretly. And with ingredients that would make your dermatologist weep. You find shelter in the home of a merchant's wife named Marjorie. The windows are horn, not glass. The walls are whitewashed and bare. But her table is cluttered with little ceramic pots and brushes. You look closer. White paste. Vinegar. Ground lead. And something that smells faintly, metallic. She offers you bread and broth. and then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, begins to apply a thin layer of the white paste to her face. "This one keeps the skin pale," she says, "even in the sun." You blink. "Sun?" She shrugs. "In case it ever returns. Pale skin, in this world, isn't just desirable, it's a social currency. Tan skin means labor. Peasantry. A life spent outdoors. Pale skin says, I am untouched. I am privileged. I am fragile in the most fashionable way. Historians still debate how widespread the use of white lead paste really was. Some say it was only among nobility. Others insist it crept through every layer of society, a desperate attempt to emulate courtly ideals. One thing is certain, it was dangerous. But then again, so was everything in the Middle Ages. What's a little lead when you're already surviving famine and the Black Death? You sit with Marjorie in the dim light, watching her blend a faint rouge onto her lips using crushed cochineal beetles she keeps wrapped in linen. The color is subtle, nearly invisible, but it's there. Just enough to say, I'm alive. Maybe even desirable. Maybe. Her husband enters briefly, nods to both of you, and leaves without a word. She waits until the door latches, then adds a drop of honey to her lashes. To catch the light, she says with a smirk. You realize, this isn't vanity. It's defiance. Later you attend mass with the town. Every woman is shrouded, every man somber. There are no painted cheeks here. But you see them anyway. A hint of brightness under a veil. A powdered forehead beneath a wimple. A woman crossing herself with a coal-smudged finger. They're not disobeying. Not really. They're surviving. Flirtation here doesn't exist in the open. It slips through rules like wind through a shutter. In a manor house outside the village, you witness the higher version of this art. A noblewoman named Isabel prepares for a feast. Her skin is ghostly white, powdered with rice flour and vinegar. Her brows have been plucked into thin, arched threads and redrawn higher on her forehead with charcoal. She paints her lips with a tint of wine and elderberry. Then she pauses, looks into the mirror, and dabs a dot of red onto the very center of each cheek. Just 2 dots. Like the idea of a flush, not the thing itself. She catches your reflection and says, Too much color looks desperate. You ask, And too little? She smiles faintly. Invisible. And that, it seems, is the line women walk in medieval beauty, just visible enough to be noticed. Never so bold as to be punished. There is no perfume here, not like in Byzantium. But women keep sprigs of rosemary in their sleeves. Dried lavender in their hair combs. They smell like survival, not seduction. Still, they find ways. A drop of egg white on the eyelid to create a glassy sheen. A pearl powder paste dabbed along the temples. Belladonna, yes, deadly nightshade, dripped into the eyes to dilate the pupils and mimic desire. It burned. It blurred. It worked. You ask a healer about it. She shakes her head. Foolishness, she mutters. But it does make the eyes soft, she adds. Just don't read by candlelight after. So, to recap, in medieval Europe, women risked blindness to look a little more alluring. You can't help but respect the commitment. That night, in a drafty stone chamber, you lie awake watching the flicker of the hearth across the wall. Your cheeks are still faintly powdered. Your lips taste like berries and risk. Outside, wolves howl. Somewhere, a lute plays a lonely tune. And you begin to understand. In a world built on restraint and fear, beauty becomes its own rebellion. A powdered face is a whisper of hope. A red lip is a prayer for warmth. And to flirt? To dare to invite love, or lust, or even curiosity. It's not just bold. It's holy. The bells are ringing. Not for war. Not for prayer. For pleasure. You cross a stone bridge at dusk, mist curling around your boots, and suddenly you're in Venice. But not the gray Venice of merchants and fishmongers. No, this is carnival. This is revelry and candlelight and secrets stitched into velvet. You barely get 2 steps onto the piazza before someone offers you a mask. And you realize, in this city, the first act of flirtation is hiding your face. You slip the mask on. It's light. Painted gold and ivory, trimmed with black lace. Behind it, the world becomes a stage. And you, darling, are finally in costume. Carnival in Venice isn't a party, it's a permission slip. For a few days each year, rank dissolves. Titles vanish. A butcher can dance with a duchess. A monk might kiss a courtesan. And every face is hidden behind glassy eyes and painted lips. But underneath? Oh, underneath there's still rouge. Still powder. Still eyeliner. Because behind every mask is a mirror. You follow a procession down a narrow alley, torches flickering. The crowd flows like honey, slow, sticky, fragrant with musk and wine. Laughter bounces off stone. Harps and flutes carry from balconies. Someone throws petals from above. They land in your hair. You pass a woman in a full-face mask, but her décolletage glows with crushed pearl. Her gloved hand clutches a fan, but her mouth, barely visible behind the mask's curve, is stained deepest crimson. And when she turns her head to look at you, the eyes behind the mask are ringed into black coal. It doesn't hide her. It defines her. You duck into a perfumer's stall, tucked beneath an archway. Inside, scents hang like velvet, ambergris, narrowly clove. The perfumer wears a half mask and dabs scent onto your wrists without asking. Seduction, she says in a low voice, is made of contrast. She picks up a small vial. This one smells like lilies and ink. You laugh, but she's serious. For someone who wants to be read, but not understood. You buy it. Of course you do. Historians still debate how much of Venetian makeup culture was public, and how much existed behind closed doors. Some say noblewomen painted themselves heavily beneath their masks to maintain allure in private rooms. Others argue the mask was the makeup, a substitute for beauty, a tool of flirtation more powerful than any rouge. But even in debate, one truth lingers. In Venice, mystery was the most seductive cosmetic of all. You find a mirror beside a fountain. Your cheeks are flushed. Whether from wine or anticipation, you can't tell. Your mask covers most of it, but you reach for a small tin of rouge anyway. Just a touch. Just to heighten the story. Nearby, a masked man watches. You meet his gaze. He doesn't speak. He simply pulls a tiny brush from his cloak and smears a stripe of red across his own cheek. Then vanishes into the crowd. This is flirting, Venetian style, silent, painted, vanishing. You find yourself in a candlelit chamber above a gondola dock. The windows are shuttered. The room smells of warm wax and honeyed almonds. Someone plays a slow, mournful tune on a lute. Around you, masked strangers lounge on pillows, faces half-painted, eyes glassy with drink and delight. One woman removes her mask slowly, revealing the soft smudge of black beneath her lower lashes. Another man lifts his to show lips painted violet, dark as dusk. No one says anything. But you can read every face like a page. Someone hands you a brush. Someone else brings a mirror. You hesitate. But then, why not? You add a thin ring of kohl around your eyes. A line of pale powder beneath your cheekbones. And a stain of pomegranate on your lower lip. No one claps. But 3 people stare. Outside, fireworks bloom above the canal. The sky turns gold and green. Gondolas sway in rhythm, passengers kissing behind fans and masks. You stand on a balcony watching the sparks fall and feel untethered. Weightless. Because for the first time in this journey, you're not trying to reveal yourself. You're crafting an illusion. And in that illusion, something true emerges. Historians may never agree on what makeup meant in Venice. A tool for courtship? Deception? Escape? Perhaps all 3. But as you remove your mask that night, cheeks still warm beneath the powder, lips still stained from whispered exchanges and stolen glances, you realize. You weren't pretending. You were choosing. Choosing what they could see. And what you could keep for yourself. You feel it before you see it, something taut in the air, something wild and wide-eyed and hungry. Paris. But not the polished, powdered court of Versailles. No, this is after the wigs rolled. After the salons closed. After the king lost his head and the wine turned to blood. You're in revolutionary Paris. And red? Red is everywhere. Red flags. Red ribbons. Red graffiti on stone walls. And lips, painted red with something defiant in the corners. If in Rome, rouge was declaration, and in Venice, disguise, here in Paris, it's resistance. You step into a cobbled street off Rue Saint-Antoine, where bakers shout over the roar of the crowd and girls with bare ankles dance in the dust. The scent of sweat, gunpowder, and bread fills the air, all of it heady with change. And then you see her. She leans against a wall with a basket on her hip and a mouth like rebellion. Full, stained, unashamed. The red is deeper than berries, richer than blood. She looks like she could kiss you or kill you, and you wouldn't mind either way. She catches you staring. It's beetroot, she says. Boiled down with clove. You nod dumbly. It used to be forbidden, you know. She lifts her chin. Only courtesans and queens wore red lips. You ask. And now? She grins. Now we all do. So they can't tell the difference. You've never wanted a lipstick recipe and a political theory so badly at the same time. Historians still debate whether the red lip became popular because of the revolution or despite it. Some claim it was abandoned by the nobility as a symbol of excess. Others argue that ordinary women reclaimed it, boldly, brazenly, as a signal that they didn't need permission to be seen. One thing is certain, red meant danger. And that made it irresistible. You follow the girl with the basket. Her name is Lucette, through twisting alleys and into a candlelit workshop where women make cosmetics from roots, ash, wine dregs, and coal. One grinds burnt cork into powder and mixes it with olive oil. For lashes, she says. For shadows. For staring down fools. Another boils down poppy petals until the mixture is thick and sticky. For kisses that stay. You dip your fingers into a pot of deep crimson paste and press it gently to your lips. It tingles. Like spice and smoke. Like memory and revolution. That evening, in a courtyard near Place de la Bastille, someone is reading aloud from Rousseau while others drink wine from tin cups. Lucette pulls a mirror from her pocket and reapplies her lipstick, using the reflection of a soup spoon. You ask her. Why bother with makeup now of all times? She shrugs. Because war is ugly. And I'm not. A young man beside her watches, transfixed. She smirks and blots her lips on the back of her hand. He looks like he might faint. You take notes. Later, you stumble into a candlelit tavern where the scent of tobacco and tallow mixes with roses and red wine. The crowd is half revolutionary, half weary, eyes rimmed with kohl, lips painted like bruises. A woman leans in close to your face and murmurs, "Color is the last freedom they haven't taxed." Then she kisses your cheek and vanishes into the smoke. You sit there, stunned, touched, burning. Outside, the streets shimmer with torchlight and danger. You pass a couple arguing in hushed tones. The woman wears a red scarf, red lips, red anger. She storms off, and he stands frozen. You catch his eye. He looks shaken. You understand. Flirting here isn't soft. It's sharp. Like guillotine blades. Like pointed stares. Like lips that say, "I dare you." Historians still discuss whether lipstick was an act of protest during the French Revolution. Whether women used it to reclaim their power, or simply to survive it. But tonight you don't need a theory. You just need a mirror. You find one, cracked, silvering, perfect, and stare. Your lips are red. Unapologetically red. Not sweet. Not playful. But something else. Unmistakable. And for once, you don't wonder what your mouth is saying. You already know. The dust swirls like silk around your ankles. The sun hangs low and golden over the desert, stretching shadows across carved sandstone and fields of marigold. You're in Rajasthan now. And here, the eyes don't ask questions. They answer them. You're barely through the gates of a small village when you feel it, that familiar tingle behind your ribs, the one that says you're being watched. Not with suspicion. With intention. You glance left. And there she is. A young woman in a saffron sari, walking between rows of cotton hung to dry, her kohl-lined eyes so dark they seem to hold the night inside them. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Because in Rajasthan, the eyeliner says everything. You follow the scent of cardamom and smoke into a courtyard where women gather to cook, braid hair, and gossip in voices like birdsong. They're busy, but their eyes flick toward you, one by one, assessing, amused. You sit beside a girl named Radha, who's grinding almonds into paste. She pauses, wipes her hands, and opens a tiny brass box tucked into her waistband. Inside, powdered kohl, matte black and velvety. She dips a slender stick into it, and draws it along her lower waterline. Then, without warning, she does yours. The chill of the applicator surprises you. But more than that, it's the intimacy of it. The shared silence. The trust. "There," she says. "Now they'll know you belong somewhere." Historians agree that kohl, kajal, here, is one of the oldest cosmetics in South Asia. But its meanings in Rajasthan go far beyond beauty. Protection. Ritual. Courtship. And sometimes, prophecy. There are stories of girls who line their eyes before looking out over the market, and by nightfall, their fathers had received marriage proposals. Of boys who dabbed kajal behind their ears and caught the eye of someone they never thought would notice. Of glances that sealed betrothals. And glances that ended them. That evening, you're invited to a pre-wedding gathering. The bride-to-be, barely 17, sits beneath a canopy of jasmine, surrounded by cousins and aunties. Her eyes are intense. Lined in thick, winged kajal, dusted with ground clove, and accentuated with a dot just below the outer corner, a secret symbol, you're told, of loyalty and longing. You lean in and ask what it all means. One woman whispers, "It means she's ready." You don't dare ask, for what? But you can guess. They tell you that kajal is made with soot collected from burning castor oil, mixed with ghee, and stored in small earthen jars. Some add camphor to cool the eyes. Others blend it with clove for spice. One woman, older and smiling, shows you a formula she uses for her infant son. "To keep the evil eye away," she says, dotting a tiny smear of kajal on the baby's forehead. "And to remind the gods he is loved." You feel your own eyes sting, just slightly. And not from the soot. That night, under a sky full of stars so sharp they could cut glass, you sit with Radha on a terrace. She tells you about a boy she once looked at, only once, across a field of wheat. "I wore my thickest line," she says. "The kind that smudges down, like grief." You ask, "Why grief?" She shrugs. "Because I knew I couldn't have him." You wait. She adds, "But he came anyway." You don't ask what happened next. The wind carries the story without needing words. Historians sometimes scoff at the idea that makeup could convey fate, that eyes rimmed in black could alter life paths. But those historians have never been to Rajasthan at twilight, where a glance can carry the weight of 1,000 wedding songs, where kajal isn't just an adornment, it's a signal flare. You return to your room, a simple space with carved wood panels and fabric that smells faintly of turmeric and rosewater. You find a mirror, a polished brass tray, and study your eyes. They're darker now. Not just from the kajal, but from something else. Something deeper. You realize, you're not just wearing the kohl. You're speaking with it. And tonight someone might just be listening. London. Fog clings to your sleeves like regret. Horse hooves clatter down cobblestones slick with rain, and chimneys puff gray smoke into grayer skies. It's the 19th century, and the Victorian era is in full swing, prim, proper, and polished to the point of suffocation. At first glance, this world seems stripped of glamour. Gone are the painted masks, the crimson lips, the smoky coal of flirtation past. Here modesty rules. Powder is for the stage. Rouge is for the fallen. And yet, you see her. She walks past you near Hyde Park, gloves buttoned, skirt hemmed just above the puddles, bonnet tilted low. But her cheeks? Flushed. Just slightly. A softness that isn't weather. A warmth that shouldn't be there. A signal. She doesn't look at you, but you feel it anyway. In this world, flirtation has gone underground, and cosmetics have become its most cunning disguise. You visit a dressmaker's shop off Bond Street, hoping to dry off and warm up. The seamstress, Mrs. Ashworth, offers you a cup of tea and a knowing look. "We don't paint our faces anymore," she says. "We encourage circulation." She picks up a small silver roller and begins massaging her cheeks in upward motions. "No pigment," she murmurs. "Just suggestion." You glance around. There's a bowl of crushed strawberries on the sideboard. A cloth dipped in red wine. A jar of pale white powder, ground rice and pearl. No lipstick. No rouge. And yet every woman who steps into the fitting room leaves glowing. This isn't a makeup counter. It's a conspiracy. Historians still debate the true extent of cosmetic use in Victorian England. Officially, makeup was condemned, vulgar, immoral, reserved for actresses and courtesans. But diaries, secret manuals, and whispered recipes say otherwise. Beetroot stain. Vinegar lotion. A dab of perfume behind the knees. In a society where restraint was holy, these tiny rebellions became sacred. You find yourself in the parlor of a young woman named Eliza. She offers you lemon cakes and scandalous gossip. As you talk, she pulls a tiny tin from her handbag and opens it. Inside, a soft pink bomb with a faint scent of rose. "Do you know the trick?" she asks, dipping her finger in. "Apply only after a long walk. That way, if someone comments, you say, 'Oh no, it's just the wind.'" She taps the color onto her cheeks, then to her lips. "Do I look flushed?" she asks, eyes bright. You nod. She beams. "Perfect." Later, at a formal dinner, you observe a sea of porcelain faces under the glow of gaslight. No one's painted. No one's admitting anything. But you notice the woman across the table whose lips are a shade too rich for a natural hue. The girl dabbing her eyes with a scented handkerchief, smudging something faint and smoky. The way they hold their faces, composed, soft, still. Until someone walks by. And a single blush blooms like a secret across one cheek. In the powder rooms of upper-class homes, the tools are hidden. Not in drawers. In novels. Tucked between pages. Pressed into fans. You see a recipe scribbled in the margin of a devotional book, crushed hibiscus in cold milk, applied before twilight. This is makeup written in code. This is flirtation buried in scripture. You visit a working-class neighborhood in the East End, where women scrub stoops and chase children through coal smoke. Their faces are bare, truly bare, but their daughters. Their daughters know. You watch one girl press a bit of red chalk against her lips, then rub it off quick. "Too much," she whispers to herself. She tries again. This time, she looks in the mirror, nods once, and walks outside. You see her pass a boy. He looks back. Mission accomplished. The duality of Victorian beauty is dizzying. Officially, it's all natural, all pure. But behind every lace glove is a berry-stained fingertip. Behind every prayer book is a powder tin. Behind every demure glance is a full-blown thesis in the language of blush. Historians may argue over how much women wore. But you now understand how much they meant. That night you lie in a small guest room with a flickering candle and the scent of lavender drifting from a sachet under the pillow. You reach into your coat pocket and find a little folded scrap of cloth, the one Eliza used to blend her tint. There's still a trace of pink on it. Still a trace of her. You press it between your palms and whisper into the quiet. "I didn't see anything." Which, in Victorian England, is the highest compliment of all. Light. Blinding, golden, artificial. You blink as the shadows disappear, and suddenly you're standing on a film set. Or maybe a dream. Either way, you're no longer in Victorian England's restrained hush. This is Hollywood. The 1920s. And the faces here? Oh, they don't whisper. They demand. The studio lot is a jungle of wires and clapperboards. A jazz band rehearses on one corner. A makeup artist wields a puff like a paintbrush. Everywhere, girls in silk slips smoke cigarettes and laugh like they've never heard the word modesty. You hear someone shout, "Action!" and turn just in time to see her. The star. She steps into the spotlight like she was born in it. Her mouth is red, red like lipstick just invented it. Her eyes are rimmed so dark and wide that you forget what day it is. She blinks. That's it. You're done. Welcome to the era where makeup isn't scandal anymore. It's currency. You step into the studio's makeup trailer. Inside, the air smells like powder and ambition. Mirrors are rimmed with light bulbs. Lipsticks line the counter like little soldiers. A man in suspenders is applying mascara with a tiny brush. He glances at you. You knew? You nod. Just watching. He shrugs. Same as everyone. Then he picks up a tin labeled Vamp Red and begins tracing a perfect Cupid's bow onto the next girl in line. You ask, "Is that for the camera?" He smirks. "Darling, it's for immortality." Historians agree, the 1920s were the birth of modern beauty culture. Film stars like Clara Bow and Theda Bara didn't just act, they created faces people wanted to wear. And the tools were suddenly everywhere. Mass-produced lipstick in bullet tubes. Kohl pencils you could carry in a purse. Compact mirrors for bathroom touch-ups. For the first time, beauty wasn't confined to the bedroom. It walked into the street. And onto the screen. You meet a chorus girl backstage during a break. Her name's Minnie. She offers you a cigarette, then pulls out a compact mirror. She powders her nose, darkens her brows, and reapplies lipstick with 2 fingers and 0 apologies. They say a woman who paints her face is fast, she says. But honey, slow girls don't get cast. She laughs. You believe her. Later, at a soda fountain downtown, you see high school girls copying those same movie star looks. One of them is practicing a pout in the reflection of a sugar dispenser. Her friend critiques the angle of her eyeliner wing. They're not preparing for a date. They're preparing for visibility. To be seen. To be remembered. In a small department store, you watch a woman choose between rosebud pink and black cherry. The clerk tells her, "Pink is for wives. Cherry is for trouble." She buys both. Historians still debate whether 1920s beauty was feminist liberation or just another trap. But the women who lived it, they didn't seem confused. They wore what they wanted. They said what they meant. In lipstick. And mascara. And eyes that never looked away. You return to the studio that evening. The set is quiet now. The lights are dim. A makeup artist is wiping the last smear of Kohl from a dressing room mirror. He sees you. Hands you a puff. "Wanna try?" You look at yourself in the mirror. Your eyes are tired. Your mouth is bare. But your hands? They're steady. You apply a deep, bold red. Not for anyone. Just to see what happens. And when you walk back into the street, you don't feel painted. You feel present. That night, in a motel room outside the city, you rest your head on a pillow still dusted with face powder and perfume. The stars outside are dimmed by the glare of neon, but you see them anyway. You touch your lips. Still red. Still true. And you wonder how many women, across how many decades, have stood at mirrors and asked their reflection not, "Am I beautiful?" but, "Am I visible?" and answered themselves, in crimson. You wake to the sound of a phone buzzing on a nightstand. The glow of a lock screen, the hum of traffic through double-glazed windows, the faint scent of last night's makeup lingering on a cotton pillowcase. Welcome back. You're here. Now. The 21st century. And makeup? It's in your pocket. It's in your feed. It's on your face before your morning coffee. But don't be fooled by the tutorials and palettes, the blending sponges and ring lights. Because beneath all that shimmer, the language hasn't changed. A flick of eyeliner still says, "Watch me." A bold lip still means, "I'm not afraid." And bare skin? Sometimes that's the biggest power move of all. You scroll. Flick. Double tap. Face after face, wing after wing. One girl wears neon green shadow and lip gloss that reflects the sun. Another posts a photo with no filter, no makeup, captioned, "Felt cute, might delete later." You realize, the line between performance and reality isn't a line anymore. It's a blur. And in that blur, desire still flickers. Soft. Familiar. Unspoken. You walk through a department store where beauty counters gleam like altars. A woman in a black turtleneck swatches foundation on your jawline. "Warm neutral," she says. "But you could pull off a berry lip." You ask, "What does berry say?" She shrugs. "Whatever you wanted to." And maybe that's the difference now. In ancient Egypt, Kohl was a prayer. In Assyria, lipstick was armor. In Paris, it was rebellion. Here? It's a choice. A toolbox. A mirror you can move. You sit in a coffee shop and watch the city swirl around you. A man dabs concealer under his eyes between sips of espresso. A teenager applies mascara in a car's rearview mirror. A woman in a sharp suit adjusts her lipstick with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what she's doing. And the best part? No one blinks. The rules are gone. You write your own. Historians still debate whether we've come full circle, or finally broken free. Whether the democratization of beauty is liberation or pressure and prettier packaging. But maybe the real power isn't in the products. It's in the intention. You wear the makeup. Not the other way around. And that changes everything. You return home and lay out your tools, a pencil, a tube, a pot of something glossy. You stand before the mirror barefaced. And ask yourself, who do I want to be tonight? Soft? Bold? Silent? Seen? You apply liner, just a bit. A stain on the lips. Nothing dramatic. But when you look in the mirror, your reflection has already changed. Not because of the pigment. Because of what you're saying. Later, under dim lights and the hush of evening, you walk into a room. And you feel it. That flicker. That spark. Not because of what you're wearing, but because of how you've chosen to be seen. And across the room, someone else sees it too. They glance. You glance back. And just like that, the ancient language lives again. No subtitles. No filter. Just eyes. Lined or not. And everything they dare to ask. The lights grow soft. The noise fades to a hush. And if you've made it this far with me, through the temples and alleys, through rouge-stained revolutions and masked carnivals, then maybe you've felt it too. That hush. That heat. That wordless thread that connects one glance to another across oceans of time. So tonight, as you lie back beneath your own ceiling, wherever you are, remember. You're not just wearing color. You're carrying echoes. Of queens and rebels, of flirts and fighters, of glances that could shape history. Close your eyes. Let the coal smudge into memory. Let the rouge fade into sleep. Let the story settle on your skin like dust from 1,000 mirrors. End of script. Sweet dreams.